to sit back and check out the RCWR show with Lee Sanders. Get fun, in-depth coverage and analysis from the latest in professional wrestling in AEW, WWE, NWA, Impact Wrestling, or the world of entertainment. From big TV shows to your favorite sports like the NBA or NFL. All things music, movies, and beyond, while trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in. All while keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive since 2011. And now your host, live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
What is up, boys and girls? Lee Sanders with you guys for a somber Tuesday of October 14th, 2025. I wish this was a cruel joke that somebody was playing on us right now. I wish that this was a case where, because of the era that we're in, where there's so much misinformation that's out there, and a lot of people are generating all kinds of videos and stories with AI, that I was here right now and I was saying to you guys, we all were victim to AI hoax. Nothing to see here. Keep it moving along. Not the case whatsoever, as this one hits really, really hard for me to even fathom the idea in saying that the man that we once knew as D'Angelo is no more. I'm shocked. I am still in disbelief. You know, you remember certain situations, certain events like this one. I've done this show since 2011. And just when I think that I have been conditioned to be able to react and share thoughts, fond memories of those that had a profound impact on my life, helped shape me to the person that I am today, just when I think I pretty much have experienced and seen everything, something new comes along and it just rips me inside and out, more ways than one. I think everybody remembers where they were when they heard the news that Prince died, or when Michael Jackson died, Kurt Cobain of Nirvana, Amy Winehouse, Jeff Buckley. This passing is right up there. It's right up there. And it freaking sucks. And what's even more tragic, what's even more sad about this is, let's not forget, we lost Angie Stone just a couple of months ago. D'Angelo, Angie Stone, they have a son together. You know, they had a son together. I can't believe I got to be talking past tense. Crazy. Really, just crazy, man. So, look, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, whether you'll be checking this out for live or on demand. I am definitely deeply saddened to share the devastating news that D'Angelo, the legendary singer, songwriter, musician, has passed away, shockingly, at the age of 51. His artistry touched so many lives. His voice, his soul, his dedication to the authenticity of musicship, right? Particularly of R&B, uh, neo soul. It was unparalleled. And he burst onto the scene with modern soul that could sound like and released work that still resonates decades later. His music was transcendent. I want to make sure that is stressed with multiple underlines. His music is transcendent. Even all these decades later, this man wasn't just popular, he was impactful culturally, just in more ways than one. And albums like Brown Sugar and Voodoo, understand something, these weren't just, that's a great album. No, these were sonic, hypnotic, cultural experiences. Talk about strength, vulnerability, depth. That's what was on these key albums. And for those that may not be aware of his full story, just a couple of little snippets. D'Angelo was deeply committed to musical integrity, often blending live instrumentation, rich grooves, emotional storytelling. And without a doubt, he inspired generations of artists, especially black artists, to prioritize craft over trend, right? Quality over quantity. That's something that I like to say here on the show constantly. So, with this little special that we're doing in tribute of D'Angelo, we're definitely going to be going down memory lane, walking through his life, his legacy, talk about the great music that he has left behind. This is definitely a safe space for you guys to come in and react, share your thoughts about D'Angelo as well. This one definitely hits very close to home because he was born and raised out here in the Washington, D.C. area. So, and I can tell you when he was coming up back in the day, oh man, once we found out, wait, that's one of our own. That's one of our own that actually, and you guys have no idea. Like every other city, every other state, it has their own, but there is just something culturally here in the nation's capital, in the DMV, as we call it, DC, Maryland, Virginia, where when we see one of our own, it just, and maybe it's because of just all the bull that is associated in the DMV. It's coming along, but you got a lot of rough areas. Of course, you think about Baltimore, DC, you think about Southeast, all right? And normally it's kind of one of those deals. Well, unless you're training to be an athlete or you're trying to do something legal, 9 times out of 10, you probably might not make it. So when we see one of our own, and they succeed, it's a really good feeling, man. It's a really good feeling. But D'Angelo, born Michael Eugene Archer, born February 11th, 1974, Richmond, Virginia. And he was raised in a environment where his father and his grandfather were ministers. So I really want for that to sink home. So as far as that early musical exposure goes, he was capturing it firsthand with church, particularly through gospel music. So it's kind of poetic. Oh, wow. We actually zoomed in there. Wait a minute. I am so sorry, guys. Let me try to fix that right now. I don't know how that happened with the camera. If you guys can bear with me a second, let me see if we can kind of maybe see if we. There you go. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know how that happened. It's a new webcam. You guys got to bear with me. I literally just unpacked this yesterday, and I'm still trying to figure out the hand gestures. But I'll try to limit my hand gestures. So if I kind of seem a little robotic from here on out, you guys know what's going on. I apologize. But yeah, he started learning how to play the piano at the age of 3. And you know what they say, man, when you got kids that are picking up instruments or learning how to read that young of an age, you got yourself a talented prodigy on your hands. And yeah, he began playing piano at the age of 3, along with church performances. So very early on, he developed um, musicians. I don't know why I'm having a hard time pronouncing that word today. You guys gotta forgive me, but songwriting, and when it comes to just music in general, that camaraderie, everything that goes with it, he started picking up on that very early on. Maybe it's because I'm nervous. That's all. Forgive me. This is kind of one of those rare times where I'm actually a little nervous. I don't know why. It just happens. And then as a teenager, D'Angelo joined the group Three of a Kind with his cousins and later formed the Michael Archer and Precise. And he made his rounds competing at amateur nights, various events. One particularly amateur night at the Apollo Theater, Harlem, New York in the 1990s. So 9 times out of 10, if you're around my age or older, you probably remember seeing him on an episode of the Apollo. We used to be, what a joy it was watching the Apollo on Saturday nights, wasn't it? All the great acts that would come through. It's just a who's who of who all came through there and ended up being an overnight success that would end up becoming a household name and everything. So he signed a record deal shortly after that. And of course, what came from out of that was Brown Sugar. And so many great songs on that Brown Sugar album, man. Like, here's the thing about a D'Angelo album, and any fan will tell you this. When it comes to D'Angelo's music, I think one of the first words that come to mind with D'Angelo fans is, yo, his music, it's timeless. And it really, really is. You go back to that 1995 Brown Sugar album, and we all can make a really valid argument that not for nothing, that album, it was good. It was good, but it was very tight as far as the blueprint went for what songs to cover. It was very structured, a little too polished. You could say, right? It's kind of like, this is really how this guy is. This is really how he sounds. This is really how he feels. It's kind of a interesting thing to put out there and question how he feels. We got to come back to that one. But Brown Sugar, All Right, which is my personal favorite. I mean, that's like my all-time favorite track from the Brown Sugar album. And then, of course, Shit, Damn, Motherfucker. Like, I stay pushing that one. Nice rendition of Cruising by Smokey Robinson. And then, of course, Lady, which was co-written by Raphael Sadiq of Tony, and Lucy Pearl. You just felt after you got done listening to that album, yo, whoever this D'Angelo dude is, this guy is gonna be around for some years to come. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And not for nothing, but that album did exceptionally well for a debut album. It did exceptionally well. Made the charts here in the US. I think it was like number 22. Just in the R&B category alone, it was in the top 10. Got certified gold, platinum. I mean, Brown Sugar was, for all intents and purposes, it was the shit. It was a great fusion of contemporary R&B and hip hop, but it wasn't the true D'Angelo as we kind of came to know and love when that Voodoo album had dropped, because that's when it really hit the fan. Let's go ahead and talk about that. We've been teasing it long enough, but definitely you cannot consider yourself an R&B fan in 2025 and beyond if you have not listened to D'Angelo's Voodoo that was released in 2000. I mean, my God, everybody in their mama, there wasn't nobody that I didn't know that was pushing that album when it dropped. And let me tell you something. I can remember when, matter of fact, now that I'm really thinking about it, I was in my senior year in high school when this album dropped. And me and my friends back in the day, we were notorious for the whole 4 years that we were at high school. We were notorious for hanging out downtown DC, Georgetown. We would go hit up Tower Records, and then we would also hit up, because it was actually one of my favorite hangout spots. There was this little store in Georgetown that was called CD Warehouse, and it was operated by a married gay couple. They were really cool, man. They were really cool. And they had it set up so that as soon as you would come in there, if there was any CD that you wanted to listen to, if it wasn't already opened, they would open one up for you, and they would make sure that album stayed open just behind the counter so you could ask for it, especially if it was a new release. And then you could go to one of the listening stations and you could check out the album. I remember me and my friends, mainly me, I would stop by CD Warehouse and I'd be there for like an hour or two just listening to a couple of albums, because I used to always come there, like, if not every week, guaranteed every other week, looking for new music, some old school stuff to check out as well. But I was always on top of the new releases. And so I remember when Voodoo was getting ready to drop, my friends go, Lee, are you gonna check out D'Angelo's new album, man? I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna check it out. Like, oh, okay, bet. Well, when we get to the computer class, yo, you gotta play that joint, man. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, bet. It's like, you gonna go pick it up right now? Yeah, I'm gonna go pick it up right now. And there would be some classes that I would skip when it would come to new release Tuesday, depending on what it was I was trying to get. Cause and this is how you had to operate back then, because old school folks will tell you certain stores that you would go to, a CD Warehouse, a Tower Records, yeah, sometimes even Suncoast, if there was like a highly anticipated release, Michael Jackson even, or Janet Jackson, you best had got there early, because heaven forbid you showed up an hour or two after that store opened, there was going to be no more cassettes or CDs potentially available. That's how it was, depending on the artist. And there was a lot of buzz for D'Angelo's Voodoo album. But anyway, I remember going into CD Warehouse. I picked up Voodoo. It was in shrink wrap, right? I was just that confident. Like, I didn't even ask my guys there if they could give me an open copy so I could go to a booth and listen to it. Nah, I just said, nah, I'm gonna take this. I put that bad boy in my CD player, and man, I had such a euphoric high listening to that album. Remember, as soon as I got back to school, my friends were like, yo, did you get it? Did you get it? I said, yeah, I got it. Like, how was it? I was like, yo, that shit is good. They're like, how good? Like, it's better than brown sugar. Like, no, like, there's no way it could be better than brown sugar. Brown sugar's the shit. I'm like, nah, it's 10 times better than brown sugar. I'm like, man, whatever. And so we get to our computer class right after lunch, and like, Lee, pop in that voodoo, man. Go ahead, pop in that voodoo. Our computer class was so, again, we're talking about, late 90s there, going into the early 2000s. Yeah, all we had to do was just sign our name for our computer class, and we basically got to goof off for 90 minutes playing Tetris, Street Fighter. They actually did have PC versions of this, except I think some of them it was called something else. It was under a different name or whatever. We played Madden, little stuff like that. Back then, Madden was only on PC. Yeah, yeah, true story. So popped in Voodoo, man. I'm telling you, yo, in that computer lab, it could only fit about 15 students. When I was playing D'Angelo's Voodoo, yo, we had like at least, I ain't bullshitting, we had like at least about 70 students up in that joint. Because the way it ran, like we had the door for the classroom open. And so people would be walking by and everything. I mean, you name it, man. We had like girls, every race that you can think of, probably with the exception of Chinese. But we had all the race. Like, yo, is that the new D'Angelo? Like, motherfuckers was coming in that joint and just bobbing their head and just, oh yeah, I gotta check that out, man. I gotta check that out. Yo, Voodoo, you can't call yourself an R&B music fan if you have not ever checked out D'Angelo's Voodoo. His second album, released 2000 through Virgin Records. Um, it was recorded at Electric Lady Studios out in New York. And my God, this album won so many awards left and right. This is an album. Let me tell you something. This is an album. For me, what always makes a classic album is not only when you can listen to it from beginning to end, but you could flip the script. You can reverse that bad boy, and you can just keep coming back to that album over and over and over again. That's longevity. That's what I mean when I'm talking about, yo, we're talking about something that is transcendent and everything. And Voodoo was definitely that album. Sales for that album was off the roof. Everybody that you could think of, from Rolling Stone to USA Today, Entertainment Weekly, All Music, The Village Voice, everybody gave the highest ranking possible for that album. When it dropped, it was met with rave reviews. And it won so many awards, man. It definitely had got D'Angelo a Grammy and everything. Especially, let me tell you something. Y'all would have me set on fire if I did not mention this. But can we talk about the untitled How Does It Feel music video? Where I was when I first saw the music video, my thoughts, all that stuff, right? So first off, like, I remember when there was the left and right music video featuring Method Man and Redman. I thought that was the shit. I love that, right? But yo, when Untitled, How Does It Feel came out, here I'm seeing this naked, what I thought was a naked black dude popping up on my screen, and he just licking his lips, biting his lips, and he just all, he just being sexy in front of the camera. I'm going, yo, this is making me feel very uncomfortable. Like, what am I watching here? Is this porn? Like, am I the intended audience for this music video? I don't really think I am. It's like, and I like D. I thought, D could do no wrong, but I'm looking at this music video. I'm like, And yeah, I did feel that the song was sultry. It was all about seduction and making. I was feeling all that, but for me, I just felt this music video. I wasn't the audience, but my God, man, every woman alive of every nationality. That damn music video, it made them women hot. Let me tell you. And that was kind of one of those things in D'Angelo's career he would talk about many times years later. As far as like that one regret, he wished that music video didn't go down the way that it did because it definitely changed. It changed his outlook amongst certain fans. Rather than individuals be focused on his talents, focus on his songwriting and all that. Instead, it was here is this attractive looking black man, great body, abs for days. You know, that's not what he was trying to do. Right. And it got right down to the point many times. And look, old school D'Angelo fans will attest to this. This man could be at concerts back in the day, and all the women wanted him to do was take off his clothes. I mean, they'd be screaming at him, "Take it off, baby, take it off." That was it. And you can only imagine what that does to somebody's psyche when you're trying to be taken seriously as an artist. You're trying to have people focus more on the music and everything. And it's interesting because basically D'Angelo had went into Teddy Pendergrass territory. Of course, this is pre Teddy Pendergrass, before the horrific automobile accident that took his legs and all that, took his walking ability and all that. And so I remember how it was, for us guys living through that time. Here we are, we're like, yo, this dude's got some really damn good music. But then when the Untitled How Does It Feel song came out, us same guys, we kind of turned our nose a little bit towards D'Angelo because what we thought was good, we had to now, for some of us, we had to quietly just bob our heads and not even mention out loud D'Angelo in fear that we'd have some woman that would go, "Oh, he is so sexy," because if you would ask that same woman, well, besides looking at him and tripping over his physical appearance, can you name like at least 3 to 5 D'Angelo songs? And they wouldn't be able to do that. All they knew was just he was this sexy little dark chocolate black dude with abs for days, and they wanted to know what was going on down there from the music video. That was it, man. That was it. But man, that album from beginning to end, man. I mean, classic after classic, banger after banger, Devil's Pie. I already talked about Left and Right. The Line, that is something that I still push to this very day. Matter of fact, on my Spotify account, I'm pretty sure I'm in like the top 1% when it comes to D'Angelo. Usually, when I get my music wrap for the year, let me know everything I listen to and everything. D'Angelo somehow always is on that list and everything. Send It On, Chicken Grease, One More Gin. Love One More Gin. That's my joint. The Root Spanish joint. Feel Like Making Love. A great rendition of a Roberta Flack classic. Great Day, Morning, Booty. Another classic one. I mean, this joint just had banger after banger after banger. When you go back to, here's the other thing that's so insane. When you look at albums that were released in the 2000s, and I challenge anybody to like go back, particularly 97, 98, 99, and 2000. But you look at 2000 alone, and you look at all the great albums that came out from various genres in the 2000s. But then you really home in and you focus on the albums that came out in the 2000s for R&B. I mean, I mean, take your pick, man. It was like so quality wise, so much good shit to choose from, man. So much good shit to choose from. And I agree with Dave in the chat. He was the GOAT. D'Angelo was definitely the GOAT, man. That album alone had made so much money for D'Angelo, where you also got to understand the way the music structure was back then. You know, it's still a little bit true to this very day, but like for a young D'Angelo, this was unprecedented what happened with him. So understand something. So he goes through everything that he goes through, goes the underground route, participates in the talent shows and everything, right? Does his thing with Apollo, ultimately gets a record deal. Boom, Brown Sugar gets put out and everything. But like obviously when that first album comes out, you know, you gotta pay that album off. You're really not making a profit off of that debut album, right? You know, all the money that basically is coming in is going into promoting you, you know, booking appearances, touring, all of that good stuff. You know, you might be able to bring in like a little tiny bit of money for yourself, but it's not enough to basically go, all right, I can now retire. You're basically working off all the exposure that the label is putting in front of you and all that, right? But man, by the time D got to Voodoo, I mean, he just blew the fucking lid off the joint. Like every single threshold, he was crushed. That album sold so many damn copies, 100 times over. I'm not exaggerating, right? It was a landmark, a deeply grooved, definitely a more experimental live instrumentalization of an album compared to what he did on Brown Sugar. Remember what we just said, you know, Brown Sugar, it was too tight of a production. It was too clean, right? And if you got that keen ear and everything, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So Voodoo got him a Grammy for Best R&B Album. He also won Best Male R&B Vocal Performance for How Does It Feel? And after Voodoo, D'Angelo kind of pulled a Dave Chappelle and he disappeared. You know, he took a quiet leave of absence. He was being more reclusive. There was a lot of personal challenges that he was dealing with. Ultimately, he stepped away from the spotlight. And we heard, you know, so many rumors over the years. I mean, I can just tell you, like, there was crazy ass rumors that was going on with D'Angelo back in the day. It was like, did this guy die? um you know, oh, maybe he's incarcerated somewhere. Like there was all types of crazy ass news that was going on with this man. And I remember it just seemed like the more and more that we as fans did not know about D'Angelo, the more his legend kind of grew, right? Because there was like this whole mysterious thing that was going on with him where people wanted to know, you know, what's going on with this man. Is he still making music? What the hell is going on? And I'll never forget when rumors started running back in the day that Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses, that there was a new album that could possibly be in the works. Of course, we now know that would become Chinese Democracy. But I remember way back when the rumblings first started that, yo, Guns N' Roses could be resurfacing, even if it wasn't with Slash, Duff McKagan, and all that. You know, it was still Yo, it's Guns N' Roses. That's the important thing. It's still Guns N' Roses. That's what's up. Then it was kind of like, well, if Guns N' Roses can maybe, then surely D'Angelo can maybe. And then we got something that kind of gave us hope to my mixtape lovers out there, my underground album lovers out there, right? Y'all that love the bootlegs. You know where I'm going with this. Then we got the unofficial Voodoo Voodoo outtake sessions, depending on how you want to look it up. If you've never listened to that, it's very easy to find. You might be able to even find it all on YouTube at this point in 2025. Better, clearer sound. I know you could definitely get it through like some torrent sites, right? Because this is pretty much back in the day. This is how we were staying on top of mixtapes and all that shit. We were going through torrent sites. I think back then we still had. I'm trying to think what year it was that Napster got taken. I think Napster got taken down in 2000, 2001, 2002 or something like that. But I remember hearing the rumblings of the Voodoo outtakes. I'm going, yo, I gotta listen to this. You know, what's going on? And it was a treasure gold mine to know that what we had from that Voodoo album. Wait. There's even more, and there's more that for some weird reason it didn't make the album. But when you go back and you listen to the outtakes sound really, really good. You know, Funky Drummer. Look that up. Look up D'Angelo Questlove, Funky Drummer. Fucking love that song. Love that joint. You're going, man, all these outtakes, like this is enough for another album alone. Well, surely D'Angelo is maybe gonna get ready to put something else out there. Yeah. And then we had got one song that was kind of floating around in rotation for a little bit, not officially on the radio stations, but more so just if you were trading underground tapes, you know, songs, things of that nature, you know, then you kind of knew about this song I'm getting ready to talk about. This song would ultimately be on 2014's Black Messiah album. Of course, I'm talking about the song Really Love. Back in the day, one of the original names it was known for was Real Love. And the original version, you know, that we heard very close to what would become of the Black Messiah album, but the version that we heard back in the day, you know, it didn't have all the nice flamingo guitar uh, arrangements. It didn't have any of that. It didn't have the it didn't have Gina Figoria's lyrics on it. It didn't have none of that that was going on, right? And if I remember right, around this time, Questlove was always being asked because Questlove would always work with D. He's like, "Yo, what's going on with D?" And Questlove's like, you know, he's taking his time, but he's working on some music. You know, it's gonna happen eventually, but he's working. And so finally, he was like, "Well, look here, you know, got this one joint. You know, check this track out." And you would hear the DJ come in like every 45 seconds. This is a blah 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 exclusive from Questlove. And Questlove would jump in. You didn't hear this from me. And you're like, okay, well, this song sounds pretty badass. This kind of gives us maybe a little bit of hope that D is gonna eventually put out a new album. But like rumors kept and like nothing ever materialized. And for a lot of people just went on ahead and threw in the towel going, y'all, it ain't happening, right? Me personally, I always held out hope because I was seeing so many acts get back together. I mean, my God, since I've been alive so far, I've seen Guns N' Roses reform and put out new music. I've seen Sting and the Police reform, go on tour one more time. I've seen Genesis minus Peter Gabriel would be nice, but I've seen Genesis get back together and So it's kind of one of those. Well, look, if all of these, that's just off the top of my head. Soundgarden, for Christ's sake, finally reforming, getting back together. So it's kind of one of those. Even right before he died, Scott Weiland, Stone Temple Pilots, getting back together. So it's like, okay, if all these guys can get back together and put out some stuff, yeah, my thought process, D'Angelo is definitely going to put out something. Fast forward after a long hiatus, the third studio album by D'Angelo, Black Messiah. D'Angelo picked up, and I think David in the chat and everybody else will agree with this. With Black Messiah, D'Angelo picked up right where he left off from Voodoo. He expanded on it. You know, it's like, all right, Messiah is one of those albums where it's like if D'Angelo sees D coming into your home because you welcomed him into your home, Black Messiah is the album where D'Angelo is now sleeping in your bed, butterball ass naked, eating a bowl of ice cream, waiting for you to get back in bed. I mean, that's the really the nicest way I can pretty much put that album out there, and to let you know how like the hype of 2014's Black Messiah album was. Black Messiah was easily, for many, many music publication outlets, 2014's highly most anticipated albums to be released. And when it finally was released, it was critically acclaimed. It later ranked as one of the year's best albums, debuted at number 5 on the US billboards, number 1 on the top R&B hip hop albums. It sold like over 117,000 units that first week, and they led with now they dubbed the track Really Love. You know, we used to know it as Real Love. Now they call it Really Love. And this was a lot had happened to D'Angelo during the whole process of what was going on with this album. You know, he eventually parted ways with Angie Stone. Um, you know, there was some girl that he was dating. You know, they had a nasty little breakup and everything. D was involved in a car accident, DUI charge, marijuana possession. He ended up leaving Virgin Records. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that had went down. But probably what was the longest delay for why it took so damn long, because this was extensively delayed. Um, like this was, you could make an argument this album was due back in like somewhere between 2002 to 2005, but it kept getting delayed because the way D'Angelo felt, look, this is unfinished and this isn't where I need it to be. And, you know, not to mention all the personal issues that was going on with him and everything. But it was really Questlove, you know, going into the mid 2000s that kind of kept, you know, the ball rolling and everything when this album, you know, eventually would get released and everything. But that's just a testament to D'Angelo and what we were talking about earlier, you know, believing in quality versus quantity. You know, this guy wanted to make sure that, you know, each track, you know, that it was right, that it met his respected standards, no matter how long, you know, it was gonna take and everything. A warm, expansive masterpiece. That is how I would describe this album. A lot of social commentary on this album as well. Do I dare say, can I say this? And you guys can challenge me. Let me know if you agree or disagree. But can we say in retrospect that D'Angelo's Black Messiah is D'Angelo's What's Going On album within reason? Can we give him that? I mean, I really think we can, because this was definitely a socially charged album and everything. Black Messiah got D. a Grammy Award in the Best R&B Album at the 58th Grammy Awards. And so obviously the guy was doing something right. I love that whole album, but one of my personal favorite tracks, I love the closer, Another Life. Just the way the emotional high that you are put on to close out the album. I mean, it almost kind of goes a little gospel there, doesn't it? I mean, really go back and think about that track. So good stuff right there, man. Good stuff. Now, in the later years, D was reportedly working on a fourth album, collaborating with Raphael Sadiq. Raphael Sadiq said in the past that, yeah, it's coming along, everything, it's going good. D'Angelo had said in a few interviews that, it's not going to take as long. Don't worry. I'm here, I'm back, and, just give me time. But, yeah, it's not going to be as long. And yet, here we are getting ready to go into 2026, and Black Messiah was in 2014, right? So, D'Angelo survived by his children. And again, let's not forget his former partner, Angie Stone. She passed away in a horrific automobile accident earlier in 2025. I mean, it's just insane to go Angie Stone and now D'Angelo. And then can we just talk about D'Angelo's role in the Soulquarians movement? First of all, I got to give a shout out to Brandon Shaw of Digging the Greats because he does a phenomenal job documenting the Soulquarian movement, talking about these albums and everything, which I highly recommend you guys check out because I would imagine in the coming weeks he's definitely going to be putting out there a special tribute towards D'Angelo and everything. But D'Angelo was part of the Soulquarians, and the Soulquarians was loosely a collection of black artists, okay? Neo soul, jazz, hip hop. These guys were all active in the 90s going into the early 2000s. And as far as the members go, D'Angelo was part of this. The great and late, I love this brother to death. I wish he was still with us to this very day. Jay Dilla, Questlove, Erica Badu, Mos Def, Common, Talib Kweli, Balau, Q-Tip, Roy Hargrove. I mean, these were your core, fundamentals for the Soulquarians, and D'Angelo was one of the founding creative forces for this. He, Questlove, Jay Dilla, they pretty much were very central to that, and all of them would they were all friends. That's like the best part. They all were so cool with one another at some point. Some dated one another, right? I know Erica Badu briefly dated Common and everything. And what was so cool is a lot of these guys, they would be recording their stuff at Electric Lady Studios out in New York. And so, they would just randomly pop up and, hey, what you working on? Oh, maybe listening, be sitting in. Yo, you know what that needs? You should try. Yeah, yeah, you know what? You right. Hey, you want to maybe play on this? Yeah, sure. We'll go pick up an instrument. And they would be contributing like that on each other's albums and everything. It really took collaboration to a whole another level and everything. And Voodoo is definitely looked at by many as a prime example of, you want to talk Soulquarium, like, check out this album. Here it is, at its finest as far as being a jam session, an experiment vibe, all of that. And a great one other thing about the Soulquarian movement, again, you're talking about soul, jazz, funk, hip hop. Everybody involved in this benefited from it, And when you listen to Voodoo, you can almost hear that Soulquarian spirit on Voodoo, particularly on the grooves, the spontaneity, and the instrumentalization, the cross genre collabs. Not for nothing, you could also make an argument that Lauryn Hill was kind of part of that whole mix as well and everything. But yeah, some of the reactions that's been coming in right now, a lot of people are definitely shocked as the music world has been reacting. Jill Scott, Missy Elliott, Tyler the Creator, Doja, Cat, DJ Premier, Flea, just to name a few that have been reacting to the news. DJ Premier, he wrote, "We have so many great times. Gonna miss you so much. Sleep peacefully, D. Love you." And I'm trying to see if there's another. Yeah, Jill Scott. This loss hurts. I love, respect, admire his gift. you know, so far, a lot of fans have been sharing memories by reposting old concert footage, voicemails, rare tracks. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. And I know for some of you guys that maybe are going, Lee, how the hell did D'Angelo pass? What the hell, man? I know we didn't mention it at the very top, but he apparently passed away, and this is kind of what's floating around by the Associated Press here. Apparently it was cancer related, from what I am seeing here. Shout out to People, they're reporting that he passed away in New York City after months in the hospital and 2 weeks in hospice. Meanwhile, the Associated Press, they are stating that he died after a long battle with cancer, and news coverage centers on New York as the place of death. So it's also being said by the Washington Post and the Associated Press that he reportedly passed away from pancreatic cancer. So, 51 years of age. Cancer sucks. It really, really does. I want to say this. If you are past the age of 44, okay? So basically, if you are 45 years of age right now, I cannot stress it enough, especially if you are black. You got to start getting those checkups, especially if you know that cancer runs in your family. I don't care if it's stomach cancer, throat cancer, if it's just cancer in general and you know it runs in your family and you're 45 years of age, you are black. Hey, you're talking to somebody that's getting ready to turn 45 come December. One of the first things that I am going to be doing is my yearly checkup. The sooner that I can get booked, the better. I'm doing it, and you should do it too. You don't need something like this that, because let me break it down to you guys. This is real talk. Once we hit that age, oh man, we got to have somebody go up our butt, and we got to get blood work done, and we got to get all this stuff done just to do it. Do it. Because if it means early detection and you can get treated, you know, great. That is great. But early detection is the key. Now, I'm not saying that D'Angelo did not do early detection. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But what I am saying is I have seen this form of cancer take so many lives at such a young age. And usually, it is a case where one is not going in and getting their checkups. So if you know that the stuff runs in your family and you happen to be black, because it's unfortunately, when it comes to cancer, for whatever respected reason, us black folks, we are more prone to, as opposed to our white counterparts and all that. It's weird, I know, but apparently that's how it is. So we've got to be even more strict when it comes to dieting and exercising as a result. But this is a huge loss. It really is, because you just think about the fact that this band, not only was he 51, the three albums that he put out there, and just the untold stories that this man had left to tell, you know, because D'Angelo, not for nothing, he was also one of those type of musicians. Even when he was busy doing his own thing, he would always make himself available for his friends and contribute in some form, be it playing an instrument or lending vocals. You know, he would always collaborate with folks. So even if you were patiently waiting for new music directly from him, you know, you are always getting something else to kind of wet your noodle a little bit. And, you know, I'm just kind of reminded to a certain degree of Jeff Buckley. And, you know, somebody that I had mentioned earlier. You know, he passed away so suddenly at the age of 30 back in 1997. It's a really bad accident when it was all said and done, what had happened to him. But, you know, he was a guy that, you know, had a very promising career, um, and since his death, his legend has just grown more and more and more. Go check out those first, I think it's first three albums by Jeff Buckley, and you know, you can definitely, wow, this guy was definitely, you know, going places, and everything. Actually, correction. I don't know why I said. You know why I said third album? I'm thinking about some postmonious releases. But Grace is the only studio album that Jeff Buckley released in his lifetime. But it was so critically acclaimed and won so many awards left and right. And, you know, I don't know. D'Angelo, for some reason, just kind of had me thinking about Jeff Buckley. Maybe you guys can kind of see the correlation or not. But I tell you this, the way that we all need to continue to remember D'Angelo in closing is, you know, make sure that his music lives on. And I feel without a shadow of doubt, his music definitely, it will, you know, especially in this day and age where it's so easy to pick up Spotify, iHeart, or you name it, but nothing beats physical media. Nothing beats the physical media. I promise you this: in the next couple of weeks from now and the next 2 weeks, I truly believe there's going to be a resurgence of public interest in D'Angelo's music. I would not be surprised if streaming wise, you know, he gets more plays. I definitely would not be surprised if more people went out of their way, especially now that there is a resurgence of physical media making a comeback. I'm talking about for music specifically. I wouldn't be surprised if albums are, you know, grabbed between Amazon, eBay, local mom and pop record stores. I would expect for that to go down. And it's kind of one of those deals where it sucks that in death, you know, but you can kind of understand because it's a case where people are just trying to appreciate the music, the man, and the talent and all that. But he is definitely going to be missed. You know, it gives me a little bit of joy to know that in my lifetime and during D'Angelo's lifetime here on this show, through the brand name, I was able to review a D'Angelo album. I actually reviewed Black Messiah when it first came out. I have that available on the YouTube channel. Just go under album reviews, and you'll be able to see the excitement that I had as I was reviewing it and everything. And just kind of sad to know that that's like the one and only D'Angelo album that was within D'Angelo's lifetime that I was able to review in real time. You know, it's kind of makes me sad. Makes me really, really sad. But rest in power, D. Definitely a talent taken away from us way too soon. Cancer fucking sucks. So that is all I have to say. I definitely want you guys to keep the conversations going. Feel free to share your favorite D'Angelo tracks. Maybe you've got a fun D'Angelo story where you met him in person somewhere or whatnot. Um, Maybe you went to a concert even. I definitely would love to hear some of you guys' thoughts. So definitely sound off. And for those of you that like a little bit more context as far as like how I ended up hearing the news initially, I was kicking back and I actually was getting ready to mix down my podcast from the other night, and I kept meaning to check Facebook Messenger because my wife had sent me a message. And I didn't think nothing much of it because normally what my wife has been doing as of late, she's been sending me Facebook messages with little funny jokes. And why she's not sending me the jokes out in the open on Facebook, I don't know. Because it's not like she's sending me something controversial. It's something that she can put out there in the open. So my whole point of saying all this, I just eventually start ignoring her Facebook messages because I'm just going, it's just some lame joke or whatever she's trying to share with me from Facebook or whatever. And after like an hour or two, it just bugged me that I still had not checked my Facebook message. So I finally checked it, and the first thing that I see is her message, and that's how I found out D'Angelo passed. She knows how I am. She doesn't like to be the bearer of bad news. She's kind of gotten to a point where she wants for me to kind of just find out on my own, and I respect that. I respect the hell out of that. Hopefully your experience was maybe a little bit similar. You ultimately found out on your own, and we're all going to get through this together. I definitely promise you that. I'm just looking right now, trying to see if there were any more people that had some things to say about D'Angelo and his passing and all that. Shout out to Jazz is Dead. Rest in power, D'Angelo. A true maestro. His voice, vision, and spirit reshaped the sound of a generation. He didn't just make music, he built a language of soul rooted in tradition, but entirely his own. Fly High D. So true. So goddamn true. So goddamn true. Shout out to Paul. Paul says a musical genius has transitioned. And he's showing a video with Angie Stone on backing vocals as D'Angelo is singing, doing his thing there. Yes, I almost forgot about that. Shout out to Rock the Bells. I almost forgot about that. Just a reminder that D'Angelo's performance on New York Undercover was truly a special one. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I almost forgot about that one. Yeah, yeah. Man, New York Undercover back in the day, any and everybody came through that on that show, man. Any and everybody. Phil Collins, who didn't come by New York Undercover back then, man? Like, seriously. So there are a couple of more comments here. Shout out to OK Player. I still remember the special that D did with OK Player. A prodigy, a prophet, a pioneer from church in Richmond to brown sugar, reshaping soul music. D'Angelo didn't just drop, he shifted culture. Hell yeah. As the world mourns, we trace his sacred journey from boy genius to legend. Rest in peace. Yeah. Shout out to Larry. This one hurts. This album was one of my earliest inspirations growing up. He's one of one. Sad, sad day. Rest in power to one of the greatest of all time. Heartbroken emoji. Shout out to CW. This one hurts, man. Bro made soul music. I used to get upset that he would go years without making music. In 30 years, yeah, really let that sink in, people. In 30 years, he only released 3 albums, all of them fire. Voodoo is my favorite album of all time. Rest easy, my brother. Thanks for sharing your gift. I'll read just a couple of more. Shout out to Lauren's Lounge. D'Angelo and Angie Stone passing in the same year isn't settling with me. They should both be here. Ditto, ditto, Lauren. R Dub, D'Angelo is gone. The world just got a little darker, a little quieter, and a little less soulful. His music burned like late night neon, raw, tender, unforgettable. Rest easy, D'Angelo. Your heart still beats in the spaces between the notes. He had many influences. One of them was definitely Prince. He was an emotional wreck when Prince died. I still remember that performance. Still remember that performance he gave where he was crying. Just a couple of more here. Let's see here. Southern University Human Jukebox. Today we honor the life and legacy of D'Angelo, a true architect of soul whose music redefined an era. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'll read two more. Shout out to Ferret. Heartbroken to hear about D'Angelo's passing. Voodoo deeply shaped the groove side of my drumming beyond experience. His music and spirit will live on in every beat. And I will read to you guys one more. Nice seeing all these great tributes coming in. Oof. I didn't mean to land on this one. Yeah, I was just, but it's an interesting way to close out considering what all I had mentioned just a few minutes ago. Shout out to Paula. Paula saying, wow, D'Angelo, I didn't expect this. I was just speaking with my doctor about the beast that is pancreatic cancer and how fast it takes people. I pray his soul is at rest with God in heaven. First Angie Stone, now him. Gonna have to stream and reminisce. Yeah, yeah. This one's gonna hurt for a long time. It really, really is. This one's gonna hurt for a long time. And let's not forget, we were just on here Monday, and I was sharing thoughts to close out the Monday show on the passing of Diane Keaton, who died over the weekend. For those of you that may not be aware, veteran actress Diane Keaton, known for Godfather, Looking for Mr. Goodbar, um, Married to the Bride series. She passed away at age 79. So before you all say it, yes, I'm very well aware they come in threes. Yes, they come in threes. Makes you kind of wonder who that third one is gonna be there, man. Just makes you wonder. But yeah, for those of you that, it's okay if you didn't grow up on D'Angelo, but if you love yourself some R&B music, you love yourself some hip hop and everything, you really owe it to yourself to go back. It's only 3 albums. It's not like you got to go through, you know, 20 something albums. That one commenter said it best. In 30 years, there basically was only 3 albums that was released from 1995, through 2025. There was only 3 albums that this guy put out. So it's very easy for you guys to catch up and really understand what the man was all about with his music. And the best part, with the interviews kind of far and between that he gave, you really get a good snapshot into his psyche and everything, um, about his music and everything, his musical journey, his whole process. So you really owe it to yourselves, especially if you're a fan of those genres and you still haven't checked out his music. Now's a really good time, especially if you got streaming platforms available at your fingertips. You're already paying a subscription for it. It's kind of one of those, what are you waiting for? But that is going to do it. Hate to close out on that note, but please continue to share you all's thoughts. on D'Angelo. I definitely want to hear from you guys. And who knows? I think, yeah, we are going to be doing a episode of Wrestling with the Topics, me and Tams. I know she definitely wants to sound off. She will want to sound off about the passing of D'Angelo because she was a fan of his music as well. It's going to be interesting to hear what she has to say. And I think on that same show, we'll definitely read some of you all's thoughts, reactions, memories, and everything. So we'll be dropping that over the weekend. So check that out. And in the meantime, that is going to do it. Until next go round, I'm wishing all of y'all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. And I'll see you guys next go around. One more time. Rest in power, D'Angelo. Way too soon. Way too soon.